A bunch has happened this week. It's pretty cool, and I'm going to tell you about it, okay? I know many of you want to know about the prize, so the prizes will be announced only at the very end. It's this right here, after my weekly conversation with Hessler at VMP. This is what it is that we chose to give away, because it's fucking awesome. And I will actually be talking about this record as well because, well, I'm going to wind up talking about Kamasi a lot because he matters that much. That will necessarily also mean that I'll be talking about Thundercat, right? Because the man just released this 10-inch fucking awesome box set. And it's a combination virtuoso, prog rock, and hip-hop. And just completely amazing. And he actually sings about wanting to be a cat, which makes that triply awesome. So, no, actually 9 lives. 9 times off. 9 times off awesome is this Thundercat right here. One of the albums of the year. So, yeah, one of you is going to win this. This is going to come up a little bit later. This is what's on the agenda, okay? We're going to start with VJ News. After we do the VJ News, what the fuck are we doing? Sorry, I'm reading my own notes, believe it or not. Hits and misses. I thought that would be an interesting section. What it is that I'm going to do is tell you about the stuff that goes on behind the scenes a little bit, you know. I try to get a lot of things, and I fail miserably sometimes, and sometimes that's the story, you know. But I take the shot. I'm never worried about taking the shot, and, you know, some of them, some of the goals go in and some of them don't, but you know, the job is really just making sure that you plant seeds. You take shots all the time. You'd be interested, I thought that, you know, some stuff, I'm not going to badmouth anybody because I don't do that, but there's some interesting stories that I will tell you about. So, hits and misses. I'll tell you about a hit. I'll tell you first about a hit miss, and then I'll tell you about a fucking boom, a hit. Okay? Right after that, I'm going to talk about the summer mixtape. You know how the summer mixtape goes, right? So anyway, I'll get into that later. And finally, t-shirt pre-orders. Thank you for them. The link is up. Do your part. Boom. We're going to take this much further than it is right now, I promise. Oof, I hate when I say I promise. I sound too political. Okay, so the first story I want to tell you is basically Vinyl Junkies news. I think it's really amazing that Joel, I believe, was it Joel Justice that puts together an email saying, hey, you know what? The VJ Live videos had me thinking about, you know, the artists that we kind of got to know right here through Vinyl Junkies. And he suggested a thread, and you guys started piling on, right? And you started talking about all the records that you discovered through Vinyl Junkies. Obviously, it's not your only source, but, you know, it's a source. And that was a completely spontaneous thing, and I got to admit, man, I was happy about that. I really was. I enjoyed knowing that, you know, you guys are using this way, because that's the reason I started Vinyl Junkies, man. I wanted to share information with people who are passionate about music. I didn't want to read a Pitchfork review, even though I would read them. And anyway, you know the deal, right? So, I would say, this is how the Kamasi Washington winds up coming in, but I would say that this is probably the greatest hits. Oh, by the way, can I show you all the records I'm going to talk about? You see, I had said this and then the network went off, but I'm going to talk about all this by the time it's done, by the time our time is done. So, strap in. I can't promise I'll do it well, but I promise that I'll do it. Okay, so back to the albums that you guys discovered through Vinyl Junkies. I'm overjoyed by the fact that you're discovering music, because that's the point. Okay, and I'm really happy about the fact that there's such a variety in what we do. You know, so the classical music is there, and the hip-hop, and of course the metal, and of course the rock, and all the stuff that you normally see. But we don't get caught up in those Beatles versus Rolling Stones conversations, which is pretty cool. This one just kept coming over and over. I mean, I received it, and I guess I couldn't stop talking about it. And it is 2 years later, and I still can't stop talking about it. It's that good. And it looks like a lot of you guys did exactly the same thing. And Kamasi, Washington sold a lot of vinyl because of Vinyl Junkies. So, yeah, man, this has to be, in my opinion, the greatest hits. What it is that I wanted to do is share with you the albums that you guys got me to buy, because that definitely happens. Let's start here. I hadn't bought Prince in a long time. I really like 90s Prince. I saw 90s Prince a bunch of times. I mean, does anybody even have to mention the fact, even have to mention the 80s Prince, obviously, but at some point I kind of stopped. He had released that record, The Rainbow Children. I had bought the CD and he was in his Jehovah's Witness stage, but he was doing a lot of instrumental funk jams, man. So I saw him on this one show with Larry Graham on bass, right? Place des Arts. And the show was 2 parts. And what he did was he turned down all the lights and they're just jamming. And this is a motherfucking jam and a half. It's like, whoa, man, I wasn't expecting this at all. And the fact that he brought the lights down made it so that I was paying attention to the music and just totally getting into it like I was in my living room. Except it was much better, and it was Prince playing it for me. So guess what happens? People are fucking walking out to go get themselves a drink. I'm completely fucking outraged. It's like, are people actually walking out on this? So, he gets that done, and by the time he's done with his jam, he goes, y'all didn't think that that's where it was going to stop, right? We're going to take a break and come back. They come back and just fucking jam right through an hour and a half of his greatest hits, and fucking killed the place and tore the place down. And the only thing I thought is those fucking guys that left during the jam just got fucked. And I was cool with that. So, the deal is that after his Jehovah's Witness period, the Rainbow Children, I kind of like just got off the train a little bit. I had heard a couple of things, liked it. But Vinyl Junkies had some of you Prince fanatics start talking about it over and over again. And Artificial Age is the album that came up. They also released, what, Plectrum Electrum or something like this. There was another one he released at the same time. But this is the one that kept coming up, and it's just Jeff Davis, and there was a bunch of you that just kept going on about Prince. And I'm there, you know what? Fuck, I really like Prince. I think I'm going to go check it out. I don't usually check clips out on the net because I want the needle drop to be the first time I experience a record. So I kept away from the whole thing, went to make the blind purchase, picked it up at my local shop, dropped the needle, and my daughter and I were listening to this a couple of days ago. It's always on. It's always on. It's part of the summer mixtape. This album was amazing, and if it wasn't for Vinyl Junkies, there's absolutely no doubt that I wouldn't have bought it. You guys basically influenced this here. Another artist that you guys influenced is Town Van Zandt, man. I'm Canadian, and that's not an excuse for anything other than being Canadian, but Americana was not music I was very familiar with at all. So, I mean, you know, I knew a bit, but didn't know much. I certainly didn't know that there was this enormous scene that there is. And there are some people in Vinyl Junkies are fucking murderers when it comes to the amount of knowledge that you have on Americana. I mean, the first one that comes to mind is just Stu, man, Black Crow. It's insanity how much the guy knows. And there's so many more of you that really just, oh, Emily just kept posting this also. And I checked it out, right? So this wasn't actually the first album I got. The first album I got was this here. Was it this one? Yeah, man. It was this one. And it fucking rocked my world. I loved it, right? So it's like, as soon as, it's just one of those albums, right? You keep hearing about it. Finally, eventually you go out and you check something out. Oh, no. Oh, okay, it's still going. Sorry. So eventually you go check something out. I pulled this one out, and I mean, the whole album is fantastic, but Waiting Around to Die knocked me on my ass. And I knew that I had to continue buying more Towns Van Zandt. Then I went here. And this is the big one, right? Just him in a bar, talking and playing, very, very intimate setting, and it's one of the best American albums that I have, I guess. But again, you guys are the ones that kept saying it. I remember, man, Black Crow all the time. You gotta buy this record. You gotta buy this record. Eventually, I bought the record. You're right. It's that good. All vinyl junkies. I'm not saying I wouldn't have seen it, but eventually. Go one step further. I did an interview with Mike Scheidt of Yob, and he just got over diverculitis surgery, and he's doing better, beginning to tour. Get well, Mike, man. You rock and people love you. During our interview, he had mentioned, he had name-dropped Townes Van Zandt as one of his favorite artists, and I loved that. And it's the name that really popped out the most because it was just so not metal. And I know that he contributed a tune to a Townes Van Zandt tribute album. Again, you know, name keeps coming up. Eventually, I wound up buying this one, and that's really the extent of my catalog. I'm pretty sure there are more Townes Van Zandt records in my future, and it's thanks to you guys. I wouldn't have... anyway, it's thanks to you guys, okay? Now, that's the section on... Oops, is it still there? Okay. That's the section on VJing, what you guys did. Joel, thanks for starting it. That was very cool. Now, hits and misses. While trying to get this thing off the road, you know, while I'm trying to get this work done and realize Vinyl Junkies for everything that I want it to be, I plant a lot of seeds, all right? I work hard at this. I treat this like a job because this is my job. So I try to get the best content possible because I want to talk about the best records. I want to be able to be informed because I respect you guys, the audience, right? So interviews is one of the things that I do. I'm going to give you a miss first, okay? We'll talk about a miss, and you'll see why it's a miss. It's not really a miss, but I'll tell you all about it. That's the Napalm death story, which I really hope will continue. But then I'm going to tell you the hit, and the hit's a big one. Maybe it's a miss, though. Why don't we find out? You guys can tell me, okay? A couple of years ago, maybe it was last year, I had interviewed Shane Embry of Napalm Death. They were here on tour with the Melvins and Melt Banana. I mean, you can't ask for a much better triple bill than that. So, wound up interviewing the Melvins also. But during the interview with Shane Embry was really amazing. What it is that I loved so much about it is that he was clearly passionate about this. Now, he's visited the John Peel archives and he's played for John Peel. John Peel is my hero. John Peel is many people's hero, not just mine. Okay, when I talk about the VJ archive here, what am I doing, man? I'm trying to archive it like John Peel would make his, because there will never be another John Peel archive, but there could be a VJ archive, and I take it seriously enough for, you know, to do it like he did. He fucking played for him. John Peel invited him to his home. You know, and supposedly he's got like 30,000 records and 15,000 12 inches, and then he took him out to a barn that was filled with 7 inches, deep catalog. It was a very good conversation. Really, we really had a good time. And at the end of the whole thing, he said, hey, you know, we should exchange emails, which made me really happy because the conversation didn't stay about metal. We talked about Peel, and actually he said something that made me super happy. It's from him that I get this quote or this idea of John Peel used to say that when you didn't like music, it wasn't the fault of the music. It's because you didn't understand it yet. You didn't understand where it was coming from. You didn't have the right perspective on it. And I couldn't possibly agree more. And it's the way it is that I treat all art. If I don't like it, I don't shit on it because maybe I just don't get it. And it's okay not to get it. Hey, man, 24 hours in a day. You got only so many hours, right? Just enjoy what you enjoy, but don't be a dick. Don't fucking shit all over someone else. All right, I went a little bit off track. So back to Shane Embry. Exchange emails, right? And I saw that he was interested in stuff outside of metal. He'd talk about the Cocteau Twins, and I was so happy about that because I was talking about jazz and he seemed genuinely interested in this, right? So I was chuffed because I'm there, wow, man. It'd be so much fun to be able to have this type of an exchange with him, you know? And I had kind of put it in my head where, in terms of material, hey, think about it, man, and just a continuous online exchange with Shane Embry, or you meet with him when he comes in, and you just keep this ongoing conversation about the vinyl, and you talk about this and you talk about that. So when he offered me the email, okay, I had fantasized this entire thing. Please don't email me now, guys. I had fantasized this entire thing, right, where we'd exchange this. So I had sent him an email, and he answered back as like, yeah, look, I'm on the road right now. I can't talk to you now, but we will, promise, right? So what I did was I put together, hey, man, you wanted me to send you a couple of suggestions. Okay, you know, I might be fucking out of my mind, but I do have a couple of suggestions, and they are not in your wheelhouse, but I have a feeling that somehow you'll still enjoy it, okay? So what do I do? I suggest this to him. I start suggesting jazz to him. There's a movie. The way it is that I started is that there's a movie, an hour-long movie online called 1959, The Year That Changed Jazz, or The Year That Jazz Changed 1959, something like that, right? Where they talk about 4 records. And, I mean, those are still the cornerstone of pretty much any jazz collection. They belong in every jazz collection necessarily. The first one being Ornette Coleman, The Shape of Jazz to Come. Not an original, I will get one eventually. Next, A Love Supreme, John Coltrane. I mean, right after that, Miles Davis Kind of Blue, on which John Coltrane played as well, and Bill Evans played. These are masterpieces, right? And the other album that they talked about is my favorite of the lot, Charles Mingus. Mingus Album. Charles Mingus is the guy that made jazz make sense to me as a metalhead. I owe everything to this guy, man. And he's still my favorite jazz artist, and he's the only jazz artist I think I want everything from. So I have a huge passion for this stuff, and I suggested this movie to him and suggested these 4 albums, and I had played up this fantasy in my head where, you know, we would have this exchange, and it's, oh, that's interesting, and he'd kind of like talk to me about records, maybe even exchange records, but, you know, this entire thing. The email never came back responded, even though he got to me with the original email. Okay, it never came back with the response because, well, you know, it just didn't. So it didn't go anywhere. That's kind of a miss. But maybe not, because, hey, the dude's busy. He's fucking touring with Brujeria. He's touring with Napalm Death. He's making side projects. The guy's busy all the time. So I don't want to fuck up and say, hey, you know, it's like, you know how it goes, right? This is something that I was kind of hoping that would be amazing content for you guys, because it's like, hey, man, wouldn't you like to know what's going on with fucking, Charles Mingus? Not with Charles Mingus. Sorry, man, something's distracting me. Let me turn something out. It's making me crazy. There we go. Yeah, I mean, wouldn't you want to know what's going on with Shane Embry? So for me, the idea was with this is always not to develop, not interviews. I always kind of wanted to develop a conversation with other artists where we talk about stuff. And yeah, that was one of the first times. And the interview is up on Vinyl Junkies, and I'm going to give you a link. You can check it out. It was a good interview, really. But let's hope it goes further. I still want this to go further because Shane Embry is a complete gentleman, and it was awesome. Now, why don't we talk about hits? This is one of the things that worked out really fucking well. The response has been huge up to now with Vinyl Junkies. I'm really proud of that. And this here, what winds up happening is, like I said, as I'm looking for clients, right, or as I'm looking for people that I can give news to you guys about, I can't talk about records I don't have, right? I can't talk about a cartridge if I don't have the cartridge, and I can only buy so much. So, as I'm looking for these people, you know, you plant seeds, you make contacts, and some contacts go nowhere and some contacts go somewhere, and that's just the way it's done. And you never worry about the ones that don't go anywhere, because you just keep practicing your shot and eventually you're going to score the goals, right? So now that we talked about the misses, this just came in my email. A dude gets back to me from Reckoning Public Relations, sends me an email. Hey Jeremy, would you like to review the new Sia record? Also, we're getting a copy of John Williams' reissue of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Would you like? You know, is that something that would interest you? And it's like, fuck yeah, it interests me. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, I wouldn't buy Sia myself. That doesn't make it not good. I'll listen to it, and if I appreciate it, I know my daughter will love it. So, definitely. And I'm pretty sure we're going to pull out some songs and put them on the mixtape. Why? Because my daughter likes it, and, you know, you want to make everybody happy. So, I look at the whole thing, and obviously, you know, you try to make a connection there. So we wind up back and forth going until we finally jump on the phone for a little bit. I check out his site. His roster of artists is fucking killer. Now, okay, I want to tell you about this because you come and tell me, Aaron, I really hope that you're watching right now, okay? The Allman Brothers. If there were any Allman Brothers records or Allman Brothers reissues, would you guys want to know about them? On the roster, yeah, I want to know about the Allman Brothers. I've been going on and on about the Bill Evans Trio. Guess what? He handles some of the recordings of the Bill Evans Trio as well. This is dream material. I mean, so much so that we're working on a record that kind of recreates the spirit of the Bill Evans Trio, with Jamie Saft on piano and a bassist to be named and a drummer to be named. We have the bassist, right? So, of course, right? No brainer. Fuck, I want to get the Bill Evans records. I love Bill Evans. I don't have enough of them. So, hey, tell me, would you like it if I talked more about Bill Evans? Would you be interested in the records? Of course. Arthur Lee in Love. I fucking spent many years trying to find all of their records, not only on album but on CD. This is one of my favorite records of all time. I made sure that I chased down an original of it. That's how much I like the record. It's... What do you say about a record like this? You know, it's like talking about Pet Sounds, or it's like talking about fucking Revolver. It's that big, man, or Odyssey and Oracle. This guy handles, his PR firm handles the Love Catalog. Tell me, would you like to know about the Love Catalog? Duh. Here's where it starts getting really insanely interesting. He's also in charge of the Stax catalog. Now, what's interesting about the Stax catalog is that they're celebrating their 60th anniversary right now, so they're reissuing a whole boatload of stuff. And I've got holes in my Stax catalog, and I couldn't be more excited. The first record that they're coming out with is the first blaxploitation record that's ever been made. I don't have it because I'm still looking for it. I haven't found a copy yet, but it's Sweetback's Badass Songs, Melvin Van Peebles, the first blaxploitation movie, by a band called Brer Soul, who would eventually become the Pharaohs, who would eventually become Earth, Wind, and Fire. All right? For the people, by the people. This is a fucking landmark record that I still haven't gotten my hands on it. It's a grail item for me. That looks like it's going to be the first one. Now, I got other holes in my Stax catalog. But what I figured is, instead of just talking names, why don't I just flip through some records to tell you about the stuff that may potentially be reissued during this Stax thing. Because they're good. See, my copy of this here, Black Moses, is fucked. It's just kind of like a cheap reissue. I like this record so much. He does his version of the Carpenters' Close to You, or that's a Burt Bacharach song, actually, which the Carpenters did as well, but he does a version of Close to You that's my favorite version, so much so that when my wife and I got married at our wedding, I had them play it for our first dance, and it really pissed me off. I had it on CD, but it pissed me off because I told them, okay, well, look, here's where you come in, right, and here's where you fade out. And the fuckface Harry DJ wrote the time that he had to fade in and fade out on my CD booklet, and it completely pissed me off. Now, I can see that as some kind of a wedding day memento. I kind of see that as a dipshit who wrote on my CD. So, I don't have the Isaac Hayes album I want. I have it, but the good one has an original poster where he's just kind of like out like this, and you just see him in fucking full dashiki robe. And that's the one I want, and I'm hoping that they release this with the original cover, because I would piss myself and I want it. This one might come out also. Also Stax material, right? Shaft was also released on Stax. Just the song Do Your Thing and the song Shaft. Just those two songs are worth this entire package. But, you know, this is on. Ooh. There's one more big one for me. There's other Stax recordings on Isaac Hayes. Actually, Isaac Hayes, before started writing solo, was a songwriter, and he was in the backing band. But I'm looking for Hot Buttered Soul. The reason I'm not showing you Hot Buttered Soul is because I don't have Hot Buttered Soul and need it very desperately. So yeah, the Isaac Hayes catalog is definitely coming out, and I might have that available for you guys. I'll do everything that I can to see if we can't share in the joy together. Who else is on Stax? Booker T and the MGs. Carla Thomas. Rufus Thomas, Mr. Funky Chicken himself. Otis Redding. Going into the bluesier stuff. Little Milton. Albert King. All good records, right? Good content up ahead for us. I will never run out of stuff to talk about, even when it comes to new stuff, and it happens because of the partner, so I'm really happy to be able to share that with you. Are we ready to go on? Yeah, we're ready to go on. I'm down to my last part now. The last part will be Summer Pool Mix. The way this started was my conversation with Hessler. Out in the States, you guys are celebrating Memorial Weekend, right? Happy Memorial Day, by the way, and happy Memorial Day weekends to all of my American friends. They're having fun. Lots of barbecues will be had during this time, and people are going to hang out, and pool tunes, and that kind of thing. So, obviously, the mixtape comes into the picture, and we were talking about, we were going back and forth on what would make it and what wouldn't make it. Now, I'm going to give you a tease. Next month's Album of the Month on VMP, Vinyl Me Please, I'm not telling you what it is. I'm telling you one thing for damn certain. This is shit you're going to put on your mixtape. And this is shit you're going to want so badly. So badly. So, you've been told ahead of time. This is amazing stuff that's coming up. Okay? That's next month's Album of the Month. Will not say. But, the conversation went to the Summer Pool Mix. And I had started mentioning a couple of guys that, you know, are on my Summer Pool Mix. At the beginning, started thinking a little bit more in terms of albums, because, you know, what albums can you listen to from beginning to end? And it just makes sense with the idea of just chilling out, right? I love speed metal, but speed metal is not usually what I listen to when I'm swimming, or kind of just having a beer outside and just kind of like chilling, because to me it's adrenaline music, and yeah. So, I tend to go with stuff that kind of, you know, more psychedelic and more fuzzed out. And I thought to myself immediately, Pet Sounds becomes the obvious one because, well, it's a summer record and it's a masterpiece from beginning to end. Every part of this record is absolutely perfect. So this is definitely something that's on my mixtape, as I'm pretty certain it's on your mixtape also. This was the big one that I had told him. And the reason it is that I'd mentioned 100 Proof Aged in Soul is very specifically because this hasn't ever been reissued. And Vinyl Me Please are always looking for really good reissues. You know, it's important to try to kind of like come up with stuff. And they do a really good job of teaming up with people like Now Again. I mean, Wells Fargo happens because of Now Again. And Aegon is a fantastic digger. So you know that you're always getting something good there. But, you know, for me, it's like, why don't you dig some of this stuff? There's so much amazing stuff that's never been released before. You know, get the license and release it yourself. You're going to make so many people happy. And this is the first one that came to mind because it's such an amazing summer pool album. It's 1970s, so they released only 2 or 3 records. I believe only 2. And there's just the song Everything Good is Bad is really absolutely crazy. And the whole album is, but I'm trying to find the other songs. Forget it. But this is kind of what I was saying. I would love to see Vinyl Me Please release because I think a lot of you would appreciate this record. And it's not a record you can find anywhere. You know, you kind of have to Discogs it. And that's not any fun. So this is a permanent pool mixtape fixture as well. Brasilia. Marcos Valle is... The minute I got this record had come out, I believe, in 2012, Light in the Attic. I will sing Light in the Attic's praises forever because I still, for me, dollar for dollar, they're the best label out there. And I'm not saying that because they sponsor me. They do not. But I love them. And it's just, they don't steer me wrong. A bunch of years ago, maybe, 2012, 13, I don't remember exactly when, but they put out 4 Marcos Valle's albums out. And I bought all 4 of them. But this is the one that I bought first, and this is still the one that I like the most. And the entire thing is only 39 minutes long, and it's all on the summer mixtape. It's basically early 70s, really fucking stoned out, chilled out, psychedelic samba, Brasilia type thing. Okay, now, when you read the liner notes to the album, they explain that this whole scene is supposed to be Marcos Valle acting like he's been shot. This is supposed to be a political statement, right? Now, I didn't know when I bought the record. What it is that I thought I was looking at is just this bearded guy with long hair who was stoned out of his mind and under the pool. And I wanted to hear what that was. You know, I like them all. And they just released another one on Record Store Day, which I don't have. Just Marcos Valle, man. Fucking brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant. This definitely. Summer mix. Man, mix. William Onyeabor. He died just a little while ago, and they labeled Luakabop, right? David Byrne from Talking Heads' label. Why do I keep blanking out when I think of the name? Introduced the world to this, and this was the first thing that came out, and it's a triple LP that's bangers, top to bottom. You listen to this and you will dance. Your ass will necessarily shake. Okay? Play Good Name for somebody. You know, good name is better than silver and gold. And nobody can buy my name. And the song goes on for like 12 minutes. And some people will eventually, it's like, holy fuck, man, he just goes on and on and on, right? And then you realize that it's like a Fela song, and no, it doesn't go on long enough. The song needs to be that long. So there's, again, a 12 or 13, 14-minute song called When the Going is Good and Tough. That's brilliant, and I think one of the Stones Throw artists used to use that song to finish off his sets. You know, just top to bottom bangers. Highly suggested. Here's one that kind of surprised me. I got it recently. And it just goes to show exactly how pervasive radio can be on somebody. This is a compilation that the local rock radio station here in Montreal, Chaume 97.7 FM, put out in the late 70s, or was it 1980? I don't remember. See, they call themselves the home of rock and roll, the home of rock. And the ironic part is that Chaume FM completely ruined my love of classic rock. There's some classic rock I can't listen to anymore because they fucking drilled it in my ears so badly that I can't anymore. Look, I used to have all the Led Zeppelin albums. I can't listen to Led Zeppelin anymore, man. Rock and roll. I can't. I watch hockey. Every fucking game, rock and roll. That fucking drumming. Every game. Cadillac commercial. All you hear is that fucking John Bonham drum thing. It's great music. I can't listen to it anymore. Radio fucked it up. Hockey fucked it up. I can't. Off the Neverland. Can't do it either. So the reason that's ironic is that this came, I mean, I found it, whatever, at a charity shop or whatever, and had to pick it up. Why? Because I used to play this in elementary school when I was in 5th grade, so that must have made me, 10, 11 years old, and played it over and over and over again. Now, most of the stuff on this is fucking terrible, but there's some stuff you would think, after complaining so much about how this music just got fucking drilled into my skull so badly I can't listen to it anymore, this is what I wind up going to. Loverboy, Turn Me Loose. Over and over and over again. High School Confidential was a song from Rough Trade, which wrecked my world at the time because it was obviously a woman, Carol Pope, singing, but she was singing in the voice of, I thought, what is she singing in the voice of a man? Is she singing in the voice of a boy? And she's singing about this girl that she lusts after, and it's a pretty nasty song, and it was the first lesbian hit I ever heard, and it's on this. And then there's, what else is on this? Lay It on the Line, and a bunch of stuff. So yeah, that's on it. And there's also something else. I used to live right next to a neighbor that was a royal pain in the ass, just not the nicest person in the world. And I used to like to piss him off every once in a while, so I knew that he hated country music, fucking hated it. So what it is that I would do is I would make sure that I would leave a country music section on it. And I got as much yodeling in there as possible. I made sure that it was fucking bumpkin country. You understand? Not just nice. I wasn't going to put on any Patsy Cline. That's too nice, right? So I was going to put on fucking You're Cheating on Heart by Hank Williams and all the yodely songs by Hank Williams. No Johnny Cash, because that's too rock and roll. Some Lefty Frizzell, and I put this on as well. The Louvin Brothers, because the idea of these guys just preaching the word of God, and going on and on about how Satan is for real and you should keep away from him and he's so dangerous, I thought would completely fuck with his head, right? Because on the one hand you play this metal and on the other hand you play this. Oh yeah, I would also put on a bunch of speed metal. So that's when the Cannibal Corpse would come out. I guess I should have pulled out a Cannibal Corpse record. But yeah, music to piss your neighbors off to. And of course I would take the speaker and just turn it directly towards him, and didn't even try to pretend that I was doing otherwise, because he knew I thought he was a prick. So, yeah. But now, I got really nice neighbors. My neighbors are awesome, and I'm proud to have them next to me.